If you click this video at one point away, then please tell me what the reason was so that I can improve. Otherwise, hi and welcome. I'm trying to learn Biographyology today, Saint Clare of Assisi, and after we've done that, we're gonna do extensor carpi ulnaris strength training. The extensor carpi ulnaris lies here, and if you participate in the extensor carpi ulnaris strength training, then it's at your own risk. Saint Clare of Assisi. She lived in the 12th and 13th century. And the feast day is the 11th of August. The symbols in art are carrying a monstrance, patronage of television, of telephones, of embroiderers, of needleworkers, of sore eyes and eye disease. Okay, I think the text will clear some things up. But she is the patronage of television, telephone, embroiderers, needleworkers, and sore eyes and eye diseases overall. Paintings, for example, by Giuseppe Cesari, Saint Clare with the scene of the siege of Assisi. Okay, profile. Founder of the Order of Poor Clares under the guidance of Saint Francis of Assisi. Okay, there's Clare of Assisi and Francis of Assisi, and there's Order of Poor Clares. Let's read the text. Like Saint Anthony of Padua, Clare came from a noble family. Having refused two offers of marriage, she found that what she desired most was to leave the world for such a devotional life as her co-villager Saint Francis led. One night she abandoned her home and turned up at the door to his friary. He cut her hair and replaced her finery with a tunic of sackcloth tied about her with cord. From then on, her life changed. Okay, she was of a family which was seen as part of something called nobility, in some village of which also Saint Francis of Assisi was. And she didn't marry someone, she joined the order of Saint Francis. Like Saint Anthony of Padua, he came from a noble family, but he was also a Franciscan, and he lived at the same time. He was born 1 year after her. Okay, and I don't know if it's the same thing. So she came from a noble family, but she didn't marry. She went into a Christian order, and became a nun or something. After temporarily housing her at the Benedictine convent, he drew up a way of life for her and a few other devoted women in a house next to the church of San Damiano in Assisi, in order to be called the Poor Ladies, now known as Poor Clares. Okay, it was Saint Francis. Okay, Saint Francis was a person living at the same time, and they were both living in the same area. And his name is also Saint Francis of Assisi, and her name is also Saint Clare of Assisi. Both came probably from a village called Assisi. She came and joined his order, and when he opened a Benedictine convent for her and other women, called them the Poor Ladies, and today known as Poor Clares. In the year 1215, Clare was appointed abbess, a position she held for the next 40 years, during which time apparently she never ventured beyond the walls of a convent. She was joined by her sister Agnes, and later by her widowed mother. Okay, she got appointed abbess, I don't know what an abbess is. She became a person in this convent, in this religious house, and she was then in that religious house and that position for the next 40 years, for her life. And also her sister and her mother also joined them later on this building. Under Saint Clare's guidance, the community of San Damiano became the sanctuary of every virtue, a veritable nursery of saints. Toward the end of her life, when she was too ill to attend Mass, an image of the service would display on the wall of a cell, thus the patronage of television. Okay. I think they are talking about the wonder, so that it wasn't expected. It wasn't someone who has made, when in the year 1253, built a television or a projector and put it like that on the wall, and also not that people were making a painting and putting that on the wall. I think we're talking about a wonder, that the image of a Mars was appearing on the walls. I think that is what we're here telling about. Okay. Rules of the poor Clares. The monastic rules were harsher than any existing elsewhere at the time. Clare was granted the papal privilege of poverty, and this means living entirely on alms. So it means the people lived only from what they got donated by other people. No possession of property, either personal or communal. So we're not allowed to own things. And also no personal things. I don't know if to extent of clothes, but maybe they are just used as food. That would be an option. So basically, they were allowed to get food donated and then eat the food. I don't know if they were able to produce the food which they were eating. So basically, doing agriculture. But it could be that basically clothes. I have no idea. But it could be that clothes are seen like food. You can get it donated and then eat it. You can get clothes donated and then wear it. If it now lasts for 20 years, that is how it works. Other rules were also being dressed barefoot with no stockings. Okay, that the people were walking barefoot, and also stockings must be of the type of socks. So basically walking barefoot. And sleeping on the ground, so no bed, and probably also no mat. But it depends on what type of ground. The downside here, it has to be stone floor. And I don't know if I have to say that at a point, but I want to say sleeping on stone floor is not healthy. So don't do it without asking your doctor. For multiple reasons. Not just because it's hard, also because it's cold. So sleeping on the floor and that particular stone floor is, consult your doctor, that is not healthy. And eating also no meat. And also not speaking except for necessity and charity. So the person were not talking with other people about things, basically. Miracles of the Nun of the Eucharist. Clare was known to have a special devotion to the Holy Eucharist. When in 1234, an invading army was scaling the walls of San Damiano by night, Clare calmly rose from her sickbed and, facing the attackers at an open window, raised the monstrance holding the Holy Sacrament. As if dazzled, the soldiers fell back and fled. Owing to this incident, St. Clare is generally respected in art bearing a monstrance. Okay, in the year 1234 there was an army invading San Damiano. I think it is in Italy, it would fit. And it seems to be a city at this coast. And there was an invading army. And they were climbing up the walls of the town or her house or something, and she was going out to the window and held them the monstrance against them. And that they were expecting that, and they toppled over and turned back. And that is seen as a big miracle. Now, and the next thing is, Clare suffered from illness through much of her life. During one such period, she sat upright in her bed, and from there is said to have spun a continuous fine thread of silk, with which she made dozens of corporals, which are cloths for the altar for other poor Clare's convents. Okay, so she was ill, but when she was spinning yarn, so she wasn't doing the yarn first doing the thread. And then maybe later on, after she got healthy again, or maybe also while she was still sick, she made out of this silk thread multiple cloths, so types of pieces. So cloths, types of cloths worn at the altar for the other people living there as the poor Clares in that convent. Below, St. Clare is often depicted in art holding a monstrance receptacle containing the Holy Eucharist, in recognition of its miraculous protection of the convent at San Damiano when it was besieged. Okay, that was St. Clare of Assisi. If you were here for Biographyology, you can go directly to the next part of Biographyology, where we're going to do St. Clare of Assisi again, and try to gather all the information together, memorize them, and try to make out of memory a presentation about St. Clare of Assisi. If you stay here and participate in the extensor carpi and strength training, dann ist vielleicht auch das. Good and stable stance always, and the arms next, and then bring the fists down and up, make strong fists. Now we're having 3 rules. The third one is that we're stopping immediately as soon as there is pain. The second one is that we're going only as far as we can go with a little bit of effort. Straight and up and down. And that is the counterfeit money check exercise. Now the third rule is that we're not overdoing it. We just want to strengthen, not to exhaust. And now you can use a towel, t-shirt, a sock or something else. Press with good force onto it, and then bring the fist down. And again up. And again down. And down. And over your hand. Press good, and down evenly with all 5 fingers. We want to train the extensor carpi nose. And change again, press, and turn on the other side. Okay, and change again. And again with the first up, and bring the fist up. Change. She made too close, so I said, it was one incident. And now just neutral position. And the other side. That was the extensor carpi and strength training. I thank you very much, and until next time.